Have you noticed that after a spiritual awakening, everything can feel confusing and meaningless? Strange, right? Jung warns that feeling lost isn't failure or weakness. It's a sign that something bigger is happening. What you thought was you, the ego that guided every decision, is dissolving, creating a disorienting void. Here's the paradox. This sense of loss is actually the gateway to your most authentic self. While many try to fill this emptiness with distractions or ready-made philosophies, the deepest truth emerges in the pause, in the silence, in the nothing that comes before everything. Imagine reading a book with missing pages your whole life, and suddenly receiving the complete version. At first it feels overwhelming because the story seems disjointed. Jung shows that this initial disconnection is temporary. Chaos is fertile ground to reorganize desires, intentions, and motivation. The immediate reward is simple yet powerful. Realizing that being lost is the first step toward discovering your true self brings relief and hope. What if I told you that what you feel now, the demotivation, emptiness, and doubt, is exactly what many spiritually aware people misinterpret or ignore? Awakening doesn't bring instant clarity or constant happiness. It challenges, deconstructs, and forces confrontation with hidden aspects of yourself. Only by facing discomfort can authentic motivation and purpose emerge. Ironically, those who skip steps often stagnate, missing true transformation. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore why feeling lost is a sign of growth, not failure. We'll use Jung's metaphors to understand the void as sacred, differentiate detachment from escape, integrate the shadow, and discover new, authentic motivation. Each insight will include practical examples and questions to apply immediately, turning the feeling of being lost into clarity and direction. Prepare for a deep, counterintuitive journey that challenges beliefs and opens doors you didn't know existed. By the end, you'll realize that being lost isn't the end. It's the beginning of a life aligned with yourself. Every step can be felt, lived and applied daily, without empty theories or quick fixes. Jung guides us to see that true evolution comes from courageously facing inner chaos and embracing the unknown. If you're willing, what once felt lost can become the strongest foundation of your life. Imagine suddenly that the script of your life has changed, and you are the main actor without knowing your lines. The ego, the character that once guided every move, now finds itself lost, staring at an empty stage. Jung teaches that this feeling is not a mistake, but a sign that old structures are dissolving, and the motivation that once directed every step has simply disappeared. It's as if the actor you once were has left the stage, and a new script is yet to be written. In this silence, transformation quietly begins, even if it feels unsettling. Many resist, trying to cling to old patterns, but realizing that nothing works as it once did is the first step toward freedom. The ego seeks control and recognition, but spiritual awakening shows that this drive is no longer necessary. What feels like disorientation is fertile ground for new possibilities. Each hesitation, each moment of doubt, is an opportunity to notice what truly matters to the self. Through this process, motivation is no longer imposed. It is discovered. A helpful metaphor is to imagine the ego as an actor on a stage where the scenery has been destroyed and the script no longer exists. Confusion is inevitable, but so is the chance to reinvent your story. This moment requires courage, because letting go of old habits and beliefs is uncomfortable but liberating. Jung emphasizes that this is not failure, but a conscious transition, making space for the true self to emerge. During this pause, even activities that once brought joy can feel neutral, as if floating in a quiet limbo. Yet this space is where true introspection happens. Everyday moments like drinking a cup of tea or listening to music become exercises in presence. At this threshold, the old script no longer applies, and something new is quietly gestating, waiting to emerge. And it's here that the next stage begins to unfold. Once the ego dissolves, a strange, silent space appears, a void. Jung reminds us that this void is not a failure, but sacred, like the caterpillar's cocoon where everything dissolves before metamorphosis. In this emptiness, the most authentic self begins to reorganize, free from external expectations. Instead of running from this silence, one must sit with it, breathe, and notice what is emerging. Ironically, it is in this nothing that the seeds of real motivation start to grow. Many try to fill the void with distractions or old habits, But Jung teaches that resistance prevents transformation. The cocoon is like soup. The chaos dissolves old structures but preserves potential. Learning to float before you fly requires patience and conscious surrender. Every moment in this state is an opportunity for growth, even when it feels uncomfortable. The void also serves practical purposes. It slows down habitual thought and behavior, creating space for intuition and self-awareness. Simple daily practices, walking without a destination, journaling thoughts, or mindful breathing, help turn the void into fertile ground where the self can emerge with clarity. This is how emptiness becomes potential presence. Imagine sitting in an empty room for a few minutes, initially uncomfortable, but soon insights appear, hidden beneath routine and expectation. Jung highlights that this process is essential. The void is the laboratory for the self, where creativity and awareness begin. Embracing it allows life to feel less chaotic and more meaningful. Finally, the void teaches patience and conscious pacing. Instead of seeking immediate answers, we learn to observe, feel, and trust the natural rhythm of transformation. The silent space becomes a fertile ground, where old conditioning dissolves gradually. And it is precisely here that the next challenge emerges. In awakening, many fall into what Jung calls a spiritual bypass, confusing detachment with disconnection. Some believe avoiding pain or withdrawing from challenges is growth, but this is escape. The self doesn't reject life. It redefines engagement with it. Recognizing this distinction prevents abandoning experiences essential for growth. People often adopt neutrality, avoiding conflict or intense emotions, thinking this is detachment. Jung warns that this creates a false sense of evolution. True transformation requires presence even in discomfort. Observing difficult emotions without identifying with them is a simple yet powerful practice. It strengthens the self and prevents disconnection from life. Think of the self as a gardener. It doesn't remove weeds blindly, but discerns what needs care and what can be released. Awakening isn't about escape, it's about conscious engagement. Practical steps include meditation, journaling emotions, and reflecting on old patterns influencing decisions. This approach integrates experience with wisdom. Integration requires radical honesty. Avoiding life is easy. Facing uncomfortable truths is transformative. When conflict arises, instead of withdrawing, ask, "What is this teaching me about myself?" Small daily practices like this build clarity and alignment with the authentic self. Ultimately, awakening refines how we exist in the world. Challenges and intense emotions become opportunities for growth, not barriers. Avoiding bypasses teaches us to dance with life, even when the music feels dissonant. Awareness of this sets the stage for balancing action and pause. Jung introduces pendularity, or enantiodromia, the swing between extremes in the self's reorganization. One day we feel unmotivated. The next, we take small steps without reason. This oscillation is natural, not weakness. Visualizing it as a pendulum shows that every swing is part of the dance toward balance. Life's inner flow is rhythmic, organic, and full of lessons. Many resist, judging themselves as inconsistent. Jung emphasizes that awareness matters more than consistency. Small acts, writing a thought, taking a walk, creating without expectation, bridge the void and active engagement. The pendulum becomes a tool, not an obstacle. Think of the pendulum as a space for observation. Inactivity allows introspection. Action allows expression. Journaling these swings creates a tangible map of personal growth, turning abstract ideas into lived experience. Another metaphor is a river, sometimes fast, sometimes calm. Motivation and emotion flow with its current, and resistance only frustrates. Simple practices, mindful breathing during demotivation or small creative initiatives, help navigate the river, maintaining presence without losing direction. As pendularity is recognized, subtle confidence grows. Each swing is a lesson, each pause preparation. Jung reminds us that understanding patterns visually and experientially helps internalize transformation. Every act, still or active, invites deeper self-alignment. And here, shadow integration begins. Once the void and inner swings begin to stabilize, space opens for the shadow to surface. Jung teaches that the shadow isn't an enemy. It's a vital part of the self that must be acknowledged. Suppressed or ignored aspects now emerge, revealing hidden patterns and desires. Avoiding this confrontation is avoiding growth. Embracing it is the path to true self-understanding. It's like finding gold hidden in chaos. The initial discomfort is merely the precursor to discovery. Integration requires courage and honesty. If anger or jealousy arises, instead of suppressing it, observe and ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Journaling these moments and reflecting on triggers transforms dense emotions into conscious learning. Jung emphasizes that acknowledging the shadow converts repressed energy into creative power. The more we accept it, the freer and more authentic the self becomes. Think of it like alchemy. Chaos mixes with what's hidden, transmuting into something valuable. Painful emotions and rejected parts of ourselves become raw material for growth. Observing and welcoming these layers allows hidden gold to shine. Daily practices, meditation focused on negative emotions or conscious dialogue with oneself, make this process tangible. The shadow appears unevenly, sometimes an old fear, sometimes a buried desire or vulnerability. Jung emphasizes that this flow is natural. Each integrated fragment strengthens authenticity. Naming shadows and taking small steps to face them, expressing suppressed feelings, redefining patterns turns them into allies, not enemies. As shadow integration deepens, the previously intimidating void becomes a space of creative power and awareness. Each understood emotion and accepted impulse lays the groundwork for conscious, aligned action. Jung teaches that true transformation uses internal chaos as fuel, preparing the way for new motivation to emerge. After facing the void and integrating the shadow, motivation hasn't disappeared, it has changed. Jung explains that a calm, authentic energy aligned with the self now arises. It's no longer impulsive or approval-seeking. It's an inner drive rooted in trust and presence. Small actions without expectation become powerful alignment tools, like a steady candle lighting the dark. Following instincts is essential. Instead of chasing external validation, listen to your true needs. Creating, writing, drawing, experimenting shifts from recognition to authentic expression. Jung stresses that this internal motivation brings meaningful action, and small daily initiatives are more transformative than efforts driven by external pressures. Saying no becomes a powerful skill. The old ego sought to please or control. Now the self recognizes limits and priorities. A practical exercise is reviewing daily activities and letting go of what doesn't resonate. This clarity creates space for conscious choice, strengthening direction and purpose. Hope begins to emerge, not as illusion, but as evidence that life is reorganizing naturally. Bursts of creativity, quiet joy, and subtle inspiration are signs that the new motivation is alive. Jung teaches that noticing and valuing these moments strengthens trust in the awakening process. As action and presence merge, every gesture gains meaning. Motivation becomes authentic self-expression. Simple practices, daily meditation, writing intentions, following curiosity maintain alignment. Jung frames this awareness as a bridge between past demotivation and the new, genuine energy of the self. And it's here that the next phase, asking powerful questions, begins. With internal motivation reorganizing, Jung encourages applying insights to daily life. Simple, powerful questions guide the self. What is calling me? Where is life pushing me? Says what is honest for me now. Each question opens awareness, revealing subtle signals previously overlooked. This exercise transforms awakening from abstract theory into practical daily guidance. Practical examples show how this works. Observing interactions at work, home, or with friends can reveal patterns that need attention. Jung suggests noting emotions and reactions to map alignment with the self. Daily reflection turns personal growth into a lived experience, not just an idea. Small decisions become laboratories of consciousness. Choosing a different route, initiating a meaningful conversation, or dedicating a few minutes to writing are ways to apply awakening principles. Every small act strengthens connection with the self. Jung emphasizes that these everyday steps translate theory into lived wisdom, making the awakening real and accessible. Powerful questions filter choices, helping avoid habitual reactions. The ego previously reacted automatically. Now reflection brings purpose. Asking, "Is this honest for me?" daily distinguishes between pleasing others and nourishing the self. These small adjustments create consistent, meaningful change. As practices consolidate, It becomes clear. Spiritual transformation is embedded in everyday life. Every moment offers self-discovery. Each choice builds authenticity. Jung teaches that awakening is inseparable from reality, and applying questions and practical exercises aligns life with the self, and this sets the stage for emotional validation. After the inner journey, it's vital to recognize that these feelings aren't depression or failure. They are spiritual recalibration. Jung reminds us that moments of silence, doubt, or lack of motivation are part of the process. Powerful metaphors help. A fire that burns out only to reignite stronger, or fertile silence preparing seeds to grow. Understanding this creates belonging, showing that these experiences are universal. Validating emotions is essential. Confusion, emptiness, and frustration indicate that something new is forming internally. Writing, meditating, or simply feeling without judgment helps strengthen the self. Jung teaches that acknowledging emotions clarifies life direction and nurtures trust in the process. Silence becomes fertile soil after a storm. Just as nature regenerates, the psyche needs pauses. Introspection without pressure allows integration of insights from awakening. Daily practices, mindful breathing, walking in nature, or simply being present, turn the void into a creative, healing space. Subtle progress is often invisible. Jung emphasizes that growth first appears internally, then externally. Reflection and gratitude help notice these shifts, reinforcing the process. Every validation strengthens trust and consolidates inner alignment. Finally, consolidation opens space for hope and direction. Moments of disorientation were evolution in action, not failure. Jung shows that every step, from ego death to shadow integration, prepares you to live authentically. Recognition and application of these insights create clarity for conscious, aligned decisions. Now that you've traveled this journey of spiritual awakening, it's time to apply everything you've learned. Jung reminds us that being lost isn't failure, but a chance for growth and alignment with the self. Ask yourself, what is truly calling me right now? Which choices reflect my authentic self, not the old ego? And where can I act with courage and presence today? Each reflection is a conscious step toward living with clarity, motivation, and real purpose. Practical action is essential. Write your answers. Track small decisions, and notice where your true desires appear. Say no when needed. Follow creative impulses without seeking approval, or dedicate a few minutes daily to introspection or meditation. Each small act strengthens self-integration and transforms emptiness into fertile growth. Consider this. How often have you sought motivation or happiness outside yourself only to feel frustrated? True change begins when you reconnect with the self and trust your inner rhythm. Trust turns disorientation into opportunity, challenges into learning, and emptiness into authentic creativity. Make a promise to yourself. Apply what you've learned and continue exploring inner growth. Here's a challenge. This week, whenever you would normally react out of habit or pressure, choose a response aligned with yourself. Observe subtle changes and record them. The more you practice, the clearer your path becomes. And if you want to keep learning about these processes, deepening self-awareness and spirituality, subscribe and turn on notifications. Each video will help you understand the self, apply Jung's concepts practically, and live a fuller life. Share your reflections in the comments. What signs of awakening have you noticed? Now is the time to act, explore, and transform.